All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It is Tuesday, and you know what that means. Time to do the Tao now. Tuesday Tao, reading from Dr. Wayne W. Dyer's Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, Living the Wisdom of the Tao. And today's subject, or today's idea that we'll be centrally focusing around, is living wholeness. So what comes to mind when you think of wholeness? And so we're also reading from the 39th verse of the Tao Te Ching, which Wayne Dyer's extrapolation, his little essay here on the 39th verse, is titled Living Wholeness. And so before we jump into that, we'll jump right into the 39th verse of the Tao Te Ching. And thank you for being here, ladies and gentlemen. I really appreciate everybody who takes time out of their lives to spend time here with me and Dr. Wayne Dyer and Lao-tzu to get some wonderful wisdom of the Tao. It's a beautiful day here. I hope it's a beautiful day where you are. Grab yourself a nice beverage. I like myself some tea regardless of the time of the year. And let's dive right into the 39th verse of the Tao Te Ching. These things from ancient times arise from one. The sky is whole and clear. The earth is whole and firm. The spirit is whole and full. The 10,000 things are whole, and the country is upright. All these are in virtue of wholeness. When man interferes with the Tao, the sky becomes filthy, the earth becomes depleted, the equilibrium crumbles, creatures become extinct. Therefore, nobility is rooted in humility. Loftiness is based in lowliness. This is why noble people refer to themselves as alone, lacking, and unworthy. The pieces of a chariot are useless unless they work in accordance with the whole. A man's life brings nothing unless he lives in accordance with the whole universe. Playing one's part in accordance with the universe is true humility. Truly, too much honor means no honor. It is not wise to shine like jade and resound like stone chimes. Wow, ladies and gentlemen. That one gives you quite a bit to think about there. But what it's talking about to me was this virtue of wholeness, and how when you interfere with this wholeness, with this, because it describes, the things that arise from one, the sky, the earth, the spirit, all of these are in virtue with wholeness until we interfere with this wholeness, which Lao-tzu describes as the Tao, or nature. And it says the sky becomes filthy, the earth becomes depleted. This equilibrium that is created by this wholeness, or this natural flowing, crumbles. The equilibrium crumbles. Creatures become extinct. And then it talks about nobility. It's fascinating. This is why noble people refer to themselves. This is the line that I kind of messed up. Sorry about that. This is why noble people refer to themselves as alone, lacking, and unworthy. See, I think what's being said there is this is why the people that are truly noble, not the people that call themselves noble. Because nowadays, there are these noble people that are like people that are in high positions. And I don't think those are the noble people, ladies and gentlemen. But it is the noble people who refer to themselves as alone, lacking, and unworthy. That is very interesting. I'm not sure what to make of that one. The pieces of a chariot are useless. This one's very obvious. Unless they work in accordance with the whole. And so a lot of other things, even us, even we are useless unless we work in accordance with this wholeness that is being described here in the 39th verse of the Tao Te Ching. Playing one's part in accordance with the universe, it says, is true humility. Truly, too much honor means no honor. It is not wise to shine like jade and resound like stone chimes. Wow, that's a deep one, ladies and gentlemen. So let's dive right into what Dr. Wayne Dyer has to say about this subject of living wholeness and understanding this virtue of wholeness that is described here in the 39th verse of the Tao Te Ching. And, some of these verses and chapters are more straightforward and clear. And some of these verses and chapters are more mystical and spiritual, up in the clouds kind of ideas, which I love. That's my favorite. And then some of these take a different direction. And I'm interested, and I'm always interested to see where this one goes, where Wayne Dyer takes us with this, because it's not always where I expect. So hope you're enjoying this, ladies and gentlemen. Let's dive into what Wayne Dyer has to say. He begins by saying, we traditionally think of wholeness as something complete, like the whole 9 yards, for instance, implies the entire distance. Or I ate the whole thing signifies having consumed something completely. Lao-tzu, however, seems to view the concept differently. Wholeness, he writes, has roots in humility. When humility evokes our wholeness, we live the reality that we are pieces of the whole. Remember this oneness that we're always referencing, or this viewpoint or perspective of non-separation as compared to separation, being one of the key aspects and components of connecting to the Tao or the force or God or this true spirituality that we're on the path of discovering here on this channel, and hopefully you're on the path of discovering it in your own life, ladies and gentlemen. So this humility that evokes our wholeness, we live the reality that we're pieces of the whole. And so with this attitude, Wayne Dyer continues saying, you want to exist harmoniously with the entire universe. And see, those are the two things that always come up when talking about the Tao for me, is nature and harmony, and how there is this characteristic of wholeness and harmoniousness in nature. So cooperating with and being subjugated to what other aspects of the whole? Okay, sorry, let me restart that sentence. With this attitude, you want to exist harmoniously with the entire universe, cooperating with and being subjugated to other aspects of the whole. You can't even consider interfering with any piece of it because you are one with it. See, there's no separation. So many people, want help from God, like they are separate from it. And it is not in their life. And they are not a part of it already. I would beg that you ask yourself the question, why do I continually take this perspective of being separate from and not connected to God, or being one with, being God, as everything else is? The ants are as much God as you are. And so it is up to us to realize that. Now, cooperating with me, so other aspects, you can't even consider interfering with any piece of it because you are one with it. The moment you begin to place yourself in a transcendent position in relation to others, or to your world of the 10,000 things, or even to God, you're interfering with that force, with the Tao, with God. So begin to see the connectedness, ladies and gentlemen. Wayne Dyer says, I encourage you to examine your concept of wholeness based upon this 39th verse of the Tao Te Ching. He says, I can assure you that the world will appear to have changed when you see it through this lens. Lao-tzu insists that the universe is whole. That is, it's in a state of oneness. And see, I didn't expect him to go that direction with wholeness. So it could be living oneness. Maybe, we'll see. Lao-tzu insists that the universe is whole, that is, in a state of oneness. There are no parts needing separation from this state. Sky, earth, spirit, and the 10,000 things are all parts of the whole itself. And what's more, that's their virtue. Wow. Now, while the sky and the trees may truly be in a unified state, your ego, our minds, the thing that we've created from the way that we think, insists that we are separate, ladies and gentlemen. Really think about that, how, the rest of nature has this wholeness. The sky, the earth, the spirit, the 10,000 things, which describes, the rest of the world going on. It's like there is this wholeness going on, but we, as we go around in our minds, have this creation of this idea of separation from and it's always described as coming from our ego mind that insists that we're separate, distinct, and generally superior. And so it's important to ponder that and spend some time in contemplation, because it allows us to kind of let go of that. And so this ego, it's like, and Wayne Dyer says, but what if we can modify our ego's viewpoint? What if we could do that and change this influence the ego has on us, always feeling separation? He says, what if we can modify our ego's viewpoint? Your life will change. Your life will change if you can modify and change this idea of separation and begin to adopt this new perspective of wholeness and oneness and being connected to. When you're cooperative, Wayne Dyer continues, and looking for signs of oneness, you'll begin to see and feel the interconnectedness of everything. For example, your body is a convenient analogy for a universe all unto itself. While it is one entity, it certainly has trillions of individual, although interconnected cells. Just one cell with an arrogant relationship to the whole makes all the cells suffer. See, that brought to my mind the line, when you hurt any human, you hurt the generic human. That is all of us. I love that line because it makes you go, we are all, it makes you ponder that idea that is, all of us are connected, regardless of how separate and different we in our ego minds and in society think we tend to be. It is like just one cell with an arrogant relationship to the whole of everything makes all the other cells suffer and ultimately become extinct. Much like the individual who interferes with the Tao by polluting the sky, depleting the earth, and disrupting the equilibrium of the whole itself. A cancer cell that refuses to cooperate with the cells adjacent to it will ultimately gobble them up, and if left unchecked, will destroy the whole. Why? Because that cancerous cell has no relationship to the whole. And so it will destroy itself as it kills the host upon which it depends for its own survival. So this is, kind of the process that unknowingly comes upon us from having this unconnected perspective, or this disconnected perspective from the whole, like we are separate from everything. And you'll destroy yourself, Wayne Dyer says, if you participate in destroying the Tao upon which you are dependent for your survival. Harmony, nature, ladies and gentlemen. Each seemingly individual part of the whole is potentially dangerous and generally useless if it doesn't function in harmony. What's true for the chariot in this verse, and let me just stop there. Like, how many of us in our lives have found that we feel disruptive or generally useless at times, or how many of us in our lives have seen other individuals who are not cooperating or being in harmony with whatever process is going on at the time, whether it be in a work scenario, in a school setting, or just in any average public setting, where more than one individual is required to come together to even just exist in the same area. It is like each seemingly individual part of the whole, which is what Wayne Dyer was saying, is potentially dangerous or just generally useless if we don't function in harmony, not only with each other, but with nature. And so that's a great lesson there. What's true for the chariot in this verse of the Tao Te Ching is true for you as well, ladies and gentlemen. Your life needs to have a relationship with the Tao. And that relationship is characterized by Lao-tzu as a bond forged by humility. In other words, wholeness and humility are one and the same. So update. And see, that's wholeness and humility, the willingness to be a part of the oneness and to see it, is where the power truly is, this willingness. So humility, Mel, you agree, kitten? In other words, wholeness and humility are one and the same. So update the way you think about your relationship to life. Not your relationship, but your relationship to life itself in the entirety. And play your part according to this new perspective of oneness. Quote unquote, what Wayne Dyer says here, in accordance with the whole. Here's what Lao-tzu seems to be instructing, Wayne Dyer says, as I read and interpret this verse of the ancient Tao Te Ching. Number one, cultivate your relationship with the planet. Live in the spirit of wholeness, he says, knowing that you have a role as one of the parts of the Tao. Remind yourself that you cannot interfere with the Tao and live a life of greatness. I want to say that again for some reason, so it sinks in maybe for me and maybe for someone else. Live in the spirit of wholeness, knowing that you have a role as one of the parts of everything he describes as the Tao. And remind yourself that you cannot interfere with this force, which is described as the Tao. This is why I wanted to go over it again. I'm like trying to make it make sense here. So when we're living in this spirit of oneness or wholeness or connectedness to nature and all things, and the great force, which is described sometimes as God, sometimes as Tao, sometimes as Great Spirit, I like to call it the force or the divine universal organizing intelligence. But that's a bit long to say, so the force is much easier. But so, you know, when we're living in this spirit of wholeness and connectedness of oneness, and we've changed our perspective so that now we are knowing that we have a role to play as one of the parts of this oneness, of this great force and this wholeness, the Tao, the God, then remind ourselves that we cannot interfere with this force, this flowing, and live a life of greatness. So in other words, stop trying to force the Tao, or stop trying to force the force, ladies. No, stop trying to control and, you know, kind of, see, that gets confusing too, because then people are like, okay, I just let go and see where my life goes. And it's like, no, you do want to have direction and purpose, but you see where I'm going. So once again, as a reminder, this is the suggestion Wayne Dyer is giving to us from what he thought Lao-tzu was saying to us through this 39th verse of the Tao Te Ching, and he's telling us to cultivate our relationship with this wholeness, this oneness, the planet, this force. And so This means, continuing on with what he was saying here, respecting the environment in every way by living in an earth-friendly manner as a part of its oneness, becoming an advocate for conversation, make time to pick up and recycle trash, drive an environmentally friendly automobile. But remember, it's important to take a look at lithium mines before you think that's the most environmentally friendly way to go. Just thought I'd mention that because everybody's like, oh yeah, electric cars. And then you look at lithium mines and they are not nice, ladies and gentlemen, not environmentally friendly at all. So maybe steam power would be a good way to go back to. Or maybe we should just come back with all the airships from the late 1800s, early 1900s. Once again, that's a different subject. So drive, or better yet, walk, Wayne Dyer says. Walk in peace to as many places as possible. Wholeness means, and can you imagine the health increase of people just walking? It's amazing. Wholeness means maintaining a sense of balance with the all-providing, gentle, non-pushy, quote-unquote, Tao. In humility, you're able to feel your own tiny role in this great drama that we are all one with. I added that line. This great drama orchestrated by your source. Ooh, that's another name for it. The source, the force, the Tao, God, great spirit, nature. You're able to feel your own role in this great orchestration by your source. You'll see what Lao-tzu means by a man's life brings nothing unless he lives in accordance with the whole universe. See, that kind of sinks in now. The number 2 recommendation, that's what Lao-tzu seems to be instructing as Wayne Dyer read and interpreted this verse of the ancient Tao Te Ching from 2,500 years ago to today, right now, as you're listening, ladies and gentlemen. If you're getting value, consider subscribing. The cat agrees. The kitten, I like to call her a kitten. Change the way you think of yourself from being separate to seeing yourself in all that you encounter. That's a powerful suggestion. Change the way you think of yourself from being separate to everything into seeing yourself in what it is that you encounter. And that includes non-people things. So like plants and animals and insects and, grass and trees and the wind and the clouds and the storms and the ocean and the different waves that there is. And you start to see this metaphorical lesson about yourself in nature and in this wholeness, in the system of oneness. And you can learn a lot about yourself by doing this kind of practice, ladies and gentlemen, by seeing yourself in all that you encounter. As you live wholeness, Wayne Dyer continues, notice how you begin to feel a connection to all of life, rather than the separateness that your ego prefers. See yourself in everyone you encounter, in every creature on the planet, on our planet, he says. But that bit about see yourself in everyone you encounter made me think of, remember, if you are God, you are a part of it, and everything else is a part of it, then everyone else is a part of it. And we're all on our own journey playing our little roles in this big wholeness that is being described here. And so when you see other people, remember to respect them on their journey, where they are, wherever they are, as a part of this great wholeness as much as you are a part of it. And so this, goes to the old treat others as you would like to be treated yourself, but this is much deeper than that, much more philosophical and spiritual. It's that others are a part of the wholeness that we all create. And remember the idea about the cancer cell. If you are not harmonious with the rest of the wholeness going on around you, if you're arrogant enough to think that you are separate and you're the one and I'm superior and this person should be that way and they should be that way and I just don't think this is the way it should be, and it's like there are opposites of those. Like these are the improvements that I would like to make. That's a positive perspective, but still you are connected to that. You are not separate. You are not superior. And so when we become, out of harmony, when we become unharmonious with the rest of the whole around us, whether it's people, things or whatever, plants, it's like when we become out of harmony with it and think that we're separate is when we become dangerous to it. And on a more average note, we become useless to the whole. So if you don't want to be a dangerous or useless being, dangerous meaning you can disrupt and impact negatively the functioning of life, of the natural flow of harmony in nature and everything that's going on around you, because you feel you're superior and separate in some way. I thought that rant was necessary. It's like we need to begin to see this connectedness so that we can stop negatively impacting the whole, everybody around us. It's like when you go into a situation where you're angry and this and that and these and those, it's like, how much harmony do you really have? And how much change are you really making? It's like, are you disrupting and destroying? Just a thought. Change the way you think about yourself from being separate to seeing yourself in all that you encounter, ladies and gentlemen. So, in every creature, that's what you're saying. See yourself in everyone you encounter. So we can begin to switch to this new perspective of harmonious action. And we'll stop being useless and stop destroying the harmony of the Tao, the force, the world, life, people, everything, the whole. And so the more you see yourself in everyone you encounter, and every creature on our planet, in the forest, in the oceans, in the sky, the more you do, the more you'll want to stay in a state of cooperation rather than competition. Cooperation rather than competition, ladies and gentlemen. Think of a team, a sports team. Does the great sports team win? Now, I mean, this is open for debate. I love sports debates, but does the great sports team win because they were in perfect cooperation with each other? Or because they were in immense competition with the other team? And I would beg to argue that the great sport teams win because they were in harmony and cooperation with each other, focused on their own goals and their own desires, rather than focused on competition and destruction and defeating and domination over the other team. And, it brings up another sports saying in my head. It's like, when you are trying not to lose, you end up doing just that you're trying not to do. And rather, you should be focused on what it is that you're doing. Stay focused on your process and don't be so invested in dominating others, being focused on how you get where I'm going. Sorry, I started rambling there. But it's like this idea of being more focused on cooperation rather than competition. Stay on purpose, ladies and gentlemen. You'll always feel more inclined, Wayne Dyer continues, to reject the concept that there is a them. Because if you are one with your opponent's team, whether there's a team or just one person, if you feel you are at one with them, despite it being a game and there being two sides, and you are in cooperation with your team and in much harmony as you can be, I don't know, I think there's just this ability, this flowing that is allowed to take place rather than constantly trying to, push against this harmony, this force of harmony. The more you do, the more you'll want to stay in a state of cooperation rather than competition. You'll also feel more inclined to reject the concept that there is a them, because you are one with them. And if you are one with them, then it is up to you to be as harmonious as you can possibly be. In a setting like I was describing there, when there's two sides, how to be harmonious and still win the contest would be to be as harmonious and cooperative as you possibly can in the process so that your goals are achieved. I don't know. That's a whole subject on its own because that goes into, attempting to achieve goals, which is its own philosophy and goal setting and all of these different kind of things, which was somewhat described last week on our Tuesday Tao and Wednesday Wisdom, which were great shows. I really, really loved last week. This has been a good one too here, talking about the connection to oneness and removing the ego's separation from others. But so we're cultivating our relationship with the wholeness of everything, the planet and everyone in life. And then we're changing the way we think of ourselves from being separate to seeing ourselves as one and connected to all things that we encounter. And so practice this way of being, Wayne Dyer says, and notice the type of happiness that may have eluded you for a lifetime is already part of the oneness that you now begin to enjoy. How great does that sound, ladies and gentlemen? When we can begin to practice this way of being and noticing the type of oneness and connection that we have to everything and everyone and the role that we play in it. And then we'll begin to notice the type of happiness that may have eluded us for a lifetime is now part of the oneness that we have begun to see and enjoy. Here's how Rumi, one of our favorite Sufi poets, here's how Rumi expressed this statement and this sentiment, this idea. He said, if you put your heart against the earth with me, in serving every creature, our beloved will enter you from our sacred realm, and we will be so happy. If you put your heart against the earth with me, in serving every creature. So I think the word against there is kind of out of place for our modern understanding. I think it's like, if you put your heart with the earth, with me, in serving every creature, our beloved will enter you from our sacred realm, and we will be so happy. And now the reason you should get this book for yourself, ladies and gentlemen, to put it on your shelf, because everyone should have a bookshelf for themselves so that they can reference wonderful life-changing material like this. And the reason that we're doing this anyways in the first place, so that we can increase the quality of not only our lives, but the lives of those around us that are part of this wholeness, this oneness that we're all connected to, so that we can be the example sometimes from the work that we have done in this process to increase the quality of the wholeness of the oneness, ladies and gentlemen. And at the end of each of these chapters, Wayne Dyer does a short sentiment in a way that he describes, do the Tao now, a way that we can do the Tao now, a way that we can practically apply these more philosophical, spiritual, up in the cloud ideas and bring them down, rubber meets the road, practically apply them and use them in our life. Practically, simply, in a working way, something that we can do that's not so crazy and confusing. Because a lot of this does get really deep and confusing. And it's like, how do I put that into action in my life? And so often it's just the way that we think. But this is why you want to expand the description here and get this book for yourself, which I have linked in the description below. That'll take you right to Amazon, and you can ship it directly to yourself in a matter of days and have it on your shelf for reference for yourself to change your life. And, it's so important to do this kind of work. But so anyways, Wayne Dyer says what we can do to apply what Lao-tzu, seems to be instructing us, as Wayne read and interpreted this verse of the ancient Tao Te Ching, this 39th verse of the Tao. He says, do the Tao now. Go for a walk today and think in wholeness terms. oneness terms, connectedness terms, with all that you encounter during a 30-minute period. See yourself in those you might otherwise have judged, including the very old, the very young, the obese, the disabled, or the indigent, indigent, I-N-D-I-G-N-T, indigent. And so, it's like, see yourself in those that you would normally judge. If you see a homeless person, see yourself, see the God that you are, that we all are in them. And realize that you are no greater or lesser than them, that you are the same and you are on your path and you are whole and one and harmonious with them. And then send them thoughts of love. So often, I've heard this described before, people are, advised to help homeless people so that they can get this greater spiritual connection. But so often what happens is our ego mind, when we're so judging and non-connected to and separate from when we are giving money to, or whatever it be, when dealing with homeless folks or vagrants or people that we so are used to judging in society, that we have been taught have these labels and have these judgments and are different from the rest of us, and they're not as good and we're superior, and all these ideas that have been indoctrinated into our minds throughout life. I'm just speaking for me here in the West, in the US, in my life and what I've experienced, but it's like, see ourselves in all of these people. Oh yeah, and what I was getting at with the point there is our ego mind will get it when we're going to help and giving money, we'll be judging throughout that process, and you're better off just sending thoughts of love and continuing on by, rather than judging your mind out of, rather than just having judgment thoughts and giving money. It's like, it's better to, not do anything and send a thought of love than it is to be judgmental and try to do something, if that makes sense. Remember, harmoniousness, allowing, the force, the Tao, may seem like it does nothing when you watch it, but it leaves nothing undone on purpose. It's all on purpose, ladies and gentlemen. So see yourself in those you might have otherwise judged. And as you look at them, remind yourself, I share the same originating spirit with every one of these people. This will help you feel whole, be connected to, and one with, by shifting from your ego to the virtue of the Tao. Boom to knowledge, ladies and gentlemen. Boom to wisdom. Boom to the wisdom of the Tao and the great wisdom of Lao-tzu and the ages. And that was a great teaching about wholeness and oneness and connectedness to everything and everyone, and getting rid of our ego separation perspective. Get rid of the ego and experience true oneness and connectedness to everything. That, hopefully, will be the title to this video. I always struggle coming up with a good title, so hopefully my titles are good enough. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about the titles to my videos and how they relate to what is discussed and what goes on in the video, because I really hope to deliver on what the expectation is. I don't want to mislead anybody. Like, oh, the great teaching about life, and then you come in and it's like, well, all he was talking about there was plants the whole time. Let's see what our little T thing says, because each of the tea bags has a little quote on the bottom of it, and they're always good. It says, be kind to others, but always be compassionate to yourself. And see, that goes directly along with the wholeness, the oneness, the connectedness. It's like people sometimes are spending too much time, this is a weird, trying to be, helpful to other people while disregarding their own self. While they're struggling in their own self, they're spending time helping others, and I think that can build resentment in your own self. So make sure you can't give away what you don't have, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're trying to give people ideas and help and love and comfort and peace, make sure you are experiencing all of those things already in your own life. Because once again, it's hard to give away. You cannot give away that which you don't have already. Just a law of reality. But so remember the practical advice about all this. How do we get, if you're asking me, all right, Chase, that was a great teaching about oneness and connectedness and wholeness and all of these wonderful ideas. But how do I, just as an average person who hasn't been studying this stuff for my life, how do I go out and try to experience this idea of connectedness, wholeness, and oneness? Once again, it was the first line of the Do the Tao Now, which is why you want to get these for yourself. You can reference these things if you're having these kind of questions. And so the answer is go for a walk today and think in terms of wholeness, connectedness, oneness with all that you encounter during a 30-minute period, and then see yourself in the other people and recognize where you might have judged them before from your separate ego mind perspective. Boom. Boom, ladies and gentlemen. That was a great one. That was a good one. And it's always a great one and a good one. And next week, next Tuesday, we'll be looking into living by returning and yielding. Next week, 40th verse of the Tao Te Ching. If you want to get a head start, you can search that on whatever search platform you use. It's only 4 lines, and it's the 40th verse of the Tao Te Ching. And we'll be diving into that next Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen. Tomorrow we'll be going into Wisdom of the Ages, Wednesday Wisdom, by Dr. Wayne W. Dyer. My bookmark here is one of the old business cards that I made for my landscape paintings. I don't give them out anymore because the website's not correct, but I still am CLC Paint on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and on Etsy, where my paintings are available for purchase. I think that one might be on there, but I know I got a ton of great ones on there, ladies and gentlemen. And if so, if you need a little bit of decoration, if you got some blank walls in your home, or or you need just some beautiful color and vibrance, something that when you walk into the same room every day, I've noticed this when I go into my dad's house. There's a certain painting that I have that's right when you go in the door, it's kind of right there to the right. And so you kind of subconsciously glance at it, and it's like, it's a lifter. It's a pick-me-up. You see the beautiful colors in the sky, because that one's got a sunset going on, and you glance at the mountains real quick, and then you go on about your day. And it was like, it has an impact over time. And I didn't really notice that before, because I'm so used to the ones that I have on my walls around here. You can't really see them. These are other people's artworks, but it's just fascinating. So if you want to get one of those for yourself to put on your wall, or you want to get one of these for yourself to put on your shelf, either way, those are linked in the description below, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate everyone who spends their time with me and Dr. Wayne Dyer and Lao-tzu and all the wonderful authors and poets that have brought to us the wisdom of the ages, ladies and gentlemen, and continue in your life to seek to achieve and maintain happiness through enlightenment, through a greater awareness, a greater understanding of the nature of reality and the importance of harmony and wholeness and connectedness, and continue to discover the hidden wisdom of the ages. Continue to think and philosophize and contemplate and try to know thyself, and begin to make happiness the way, the process that you bring to life. Because then the goal that we've been seeking so long, that you always thought, I'll be happy when I get there, becomes irrelevant, because we're already there, ladies and gentlemen. And then the entire journey is wonderful. Thank you so much once again. I truly love and appreciate everyone. And so let's try to be harmonious, connected, and one with all that we encounter in our lives, and begin to be the change in the world that we're so often seeking to see and find. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Like, subscribe, and I'll be back tomorrow with more Wednesday wisdom and wisdom of the ages to bring your way.